Hello, I'm Claire.
Hi, I'm Ryan. We live here in Northcourt Road. It's a 120-year-old Victorian terraced house, and what we're going to show you today is a range of modifications and changes that we've made to the house, but they're relatively small scale. These are things that you can do yourselves. We haven't got any of the large installations of solar panels or turbines or anything like that, but what we've done is retrofit a few basic items around the house that people can DIY, they can do it themselves. It's reasonably cheap and cheerful, but it can make a significant difference to your energy consumption. We're starting here in the front garden. Claire's going to tell you about the Raingarden.
Yeah, so we started looking at our household and garden in terms of permaculture. It's like a system for designing things to be as sustainable as possible with as few inputs as possible and as little waste and as little impact on the environment. And so we looked first of all at the outside of the house at the front, and there's a real problem with runoff from the houses. It comes down the downpipes and it runs straight out onto the streets, and it's a really obvious demonstration of how surface water runoff causes flooding in times of heavy rain. So we thought about how could we capture that rainfall, use it and prevent it going to the street to sort of reduce the impact in terms of flood risk. So we built a rain garden, and again it's a really simple fix that anybody could do. So we diverted the downpipe from next door because they alternate, so we share downpipes. So the downpipe runs into the water bot first of all. That's the first stage of the rain garden, and it collects in the water bot, so we've got that available to use when it's dry. When it's full, it overflows into this called a stormwater planter, and you plant this up with a certain proportion of like sand and compost or whatever, and you plant it with things that don't mind wet or dry. So they're plants that are willing to tolerate wet conditions but can equally survive in dry, and it absorbs the water and holds the water. It can even hold like standing water for a while, and then when it's saturated, it comes out of there's a pipe runs along the planter, and it comes out the side, and then it runs down this little rill here, and it takes it into the main bit of the garden where the rest of it is absorbed. And that has worked really well. We found that in times of really heavy rain, some of it was still running off to the street. So we just dug a bit deeper, soak away, and put gravel and stuff in it, and changed the planting a bit. And now all of it gets absorbed, and none of the runoff from our roof ends up on the street. So you can imagine that if like all the houses in the street did this, it would really reduce the surface water flood risk. So that was our idea for the front garden.
So it's a beautiful old Victorian house, but like all Victorian houses, it's a little bit leaky. In that I mean that there's quite a lot of drafts, and the air and the wind can get in and can take away the heat. So what we've done, and probably one of the most effective and simple ways of reducing your energy costs and saving energy, is draught insulation. We've got simple things around the door to stop the draft coming through. We've got a simple brush underneath the door, all available from local hardware shops to stop the drafts. We stripped our floor, which is quite popular to do, but you'll notice that we've also managed to fill all of the gaps in between the boards with a simple, cheap filler that stops any draft coming up from underneath. Also, Victorian houses are famed for their beautiful fireplaces, and we have one. But a fireplace is also, of course, a huge hole going from your lounge to the outside, and we'll get a significant amount of cold air coming down that. We don't often use the fireplace, so what we've done is install one of these chimney balloons, and it's actually a piece of wool. It expands like an umbrella, and it fits into the chimney, and that'll stop any draft coming down. When you want to use the fire, you simply can remove it. There's no problem. But it's simple and effective. You can buy them, or you can make one yourself, literally by stuffing plastic bags with old bits of material and blocking up the chimney.
Yeah, we also had like on the keyholes on the door, there's a little cover over the keyhole, and on the front door there's something over the letterbox so that the draft doesn't come in through the letterbox. And we did the brushes at the bottom of the doors. Yeah.
And with our experience, without a doubt, probably the simplest, most effective form of keeping your house warm.
Yeah, yeah. And we have got the loft insulation and all of that stuff as well, but that's for the drafts. All this stuff is for the drafts. And then the other thing that we did that made a real difference was to do secondary double glazing on the windows. So it stopped all the drafts coming in from the windows, and it cuts down the sound from the street as well, which is great. And they're quite simple to make. They're just like sheets of acrylic that have a magnetic strip along the sides of them, which clips to the magnetic strip on the window. They're quite heavy, so we did put like a little sort of screw in the window so that it just rests on that and it doesn't drop down. And yeah, we've stuck loads of things on them over the years, but you can take it down in the summer, or you can clip it up there. We did the middle one, we nailed it to the thing, which is fun because we never opened the window. It's fine, but you can't get behind it to clean it, so it's actually quite good to have the ones that you can take down. And the cost of doing that, as compared to like replacing the windows with double glazed sash units, this would cost about £75 per window, whereas it can be as much, £1,200, £1,500 to replace your windows. So that is a nice cheap solution to that problem. And apparently they say that double glazing 5 windows can cut your bills by 7% or more, so that's worth doing. So the other thing that we did that made a really big difference is before we moved in, actually, we knocked down this wall between the 2 rooms because we love the idea of having a great big open space. But actually that's a crazy thing to do. You're either cold in the winter or you put your heating up so that you're not. So after a while, we decided to reinstate the wall. It's a simple sort of stud wall for part, around the door, and we've put in double doors which we can close. So in the winter, we've got half the space to heat, and actually that works great. You can open it up if you want to, but you've just got half the space to heat, and that's where most of your boiler energy is going, is on space heating. So again, that was a real help.
This is a really useful device that we invested in. It's a heating controller, but it works with a Wi-Fi. So it can connect to your boiler remotely and you can actually move it around the house. We use this to control the central heating and the temperature in the room that we're in. And when we move from room to room, we can take this with us and we can actually just heat the space we're in. It has to be used in conjunction with the thermostatic radiator valves, which are very common these days, and they can be set at any level you like, but we tend to just literally turn them off in the rooms that we're not in, and then turn them on in the rooms that we're using, and control the boiler with this digital thermostat, and you can program in the temperatures and the times as normal.
And we think that we did the boiler when we moved in was a not very old boiler, so we did replace that, and we think that's like 10 to 15% more efficient. But we think that using that probably contributed to the biggest sort of reduction in our energy usage, just being more careful about how we regulate the temperature in the rooms that we're using. So in this room, we did replace the windows. They were very old metal framed windows, and we replaced them with proper new double glazed sliding sash timber units, and they're expensive. So this is the only room that we did it in. We did it because they look nice, and we felt it was worth it. The prevailing winds come from that direction. That was an investment that we made in this room. They are very efficient, they're very good. We bought them from a local company, Chartwell Windows, but it's the only room we've been able to do it in. We've done the secondary double glazing like we showed you in the other room, in any of the other windows. And then the other obvious thing to do is the LED light bulbs, so we replaced all our light bulbs with those. They're 75% less energy usage than halogen lights, and they last a very long time, and the price has really come down since we put them in. And there's an LED compatible dimmer so that you can dim them as well. So that's our lighting.
And finally, in the kitchen, what we did was also install underfloor heating when we had the kitchen redone. It's an electrical system with a mat of electrical wires going underneath the floor. When we first used it, it does give a very pleasant, nice heat, but when we then looked at our electricity usage, unfortunately we immediately turned it off. And we've never turned it back on again. It consumes a significant amount of electricity. It's not particularly expensive to fit, but it was very expensive to run, and we've chosen not to use that anymore, and we've put the radiator back, which is obviously run by the boiler with the rest of the central heating.
Our energy supplier is a supplier that only does renewables, so that's that we've done that for several years. And you can get underfloor heating that is really efficient, but it's water based, and we don't have the depth of foundations to be able to do that. So yeah, don't get electric underfloor heating.
We're harvesting as much water as we can here in the back garden as well. We have a 700 litre tank, and we're using that to actually water the garden and also to use in the downstairs toilet as the flush. We have a simple system where we have a battery operated pump which sits inside of the water butt. The battery is charged by a small solar panel which is sitting on the back wall here, and the water, when needed, is just when you flush the loo, it automatically turns itself on. It brings water through from the water butt into the back of the loo, into the cistern, and recharges it each time and then turns itself off.
Yep, so the last thing we wanted to show you is the garden. We did a permaculture design for the garden as well, and based it on the idea of a forest garden. So we wanted to grow more food, and we've decided to grow mainly perennial stuff and fruit because it's a walled garden. We get lots of slugs and snails, so rather than trying to fight them off, we just kind of grow things that don't, doesn't matter. Apart from we use the little greenhouse to extend the season and to start off seedlings and veg seedlings, which then we take to the allotment. But the rest of the garden is like herbs and fruit trees and fruit bushes and flowers for the wildlife. So we don't need to do a lot of watering. It kind of looks after itself a lot, and we don't have any much bare soil, so that's protected. We compost the food waste and put our own compost down. We end up buying a bit of extra for the veg seedlings and stuff. We've got a pond down here. Just mind the wood, it needs replacing a bit. We get lots of butterflies, dragonflies, bees. We've got frogs in the pond. We've got a bit of a green roof on the shed. We had to put it just round the edges because it was a bit too heavy for the shed roof. But yeah, we've got the pond down here. We've got the composting, and yeah, we get quite a lot of fruit from the garden as well as from our allotment. And it's a lovely place to sit, and it's quite quiet and peaceful.